Okay, so let's pretend we're the production designer and we have all these departments working to help us out. Now, we've worked with the director and we have come up with theme and all that good stuff and color and texture. But now we need to get onto the logistics to get this thing done. And the first thing we need to do is find out where all the scenes in our script take place and find locations where we can shoot those scenes. Is it somewhere out there? Or are we going to have to build it? And if we are going to have to build it, are we going to have to build it into a studio? And that's the location department's job. And we'll talk about them in a completely separate video. But let's say our locations department did a great job. We found our locations, and it turns out some of them actually already exist. Some are locations that are good, but need to have other stuff built onto it to make it suitable for us. And then finally, there's stuff that just has to be 100% constructed by hand. It's completely fake, and nothing out there can pass for it. So that means we're going to need the construction department. They'll build us our sets and any other major construction needs. But when they're done, we'll basically have plywood, lumber, and plaster. And we need to make that plywood, lumber, and plaster not look like plywood, lumber, and not look like plywood, lumber, and plaster. And that's where we need the scenic department. The scenic department is sometimes known as the paint department, but really, they do so much more than just paint. And they have their own separate video. All right, so now we've got our scenic department on, and they have taken care of all of our surfaces, and now we look great. So now we've got it looking real. We need to put stuff into our set to make it look usable, lived in, and appropriate for our scenes. And that's when we bring in set decoration. Keep in mind, all of this happens way before the cameras start rolling. Actors will never see this part because it happens before we need them. Okay, let's look at a real cheap, fast shoot as an example. This is the script where I was showing you guys the storyboards that I did so you wouldn't be afraid to do your storyboards. So basically it takes place in an attorney's office. It's a parody of a personal injury lawyer's commercial. Of course I did my script breakdown because I'm not stupid. And then I did my beautiful storyboards. And now I knew I had to find a place to shoot this thing. Problem is, lawyers do not want cameras in their offices because their offices are filled with private matters that are confidential. So we set out to find some locations. And I have some reference photos, or I should at least. Yes. This is exactly sort of the look I was going for. This kind of thing. It's not a huge order, but keep in mind, I'm trying to spend like $500 max on it. But it's always good to have reference photos. And I did have them. Now, like I talked about when we were talking about permitting, there are places that the city of New York owns, and you can try and rent those out. Let's see, where was 1 Center Street, for instance? That was an option. It's this disused building, but you know, it's a lot of money. And it was going to require a lot of work, and it could have worked, but it wound up being like a ridiculous amount of money. Plus, it was a union building. I wound up shooting in a union building anyway, but that means you have to hire the union to use the elevators and stuff like that. But you can see it's got these great looking file cabinets and stuff that I was kind of excited about. But it was also kind of out of my price range. So there are places you can go and look at online. You can look and they will show you the there are locations that are available to shoot in, but these people for some reason just never got back to me, and I think they were ridiculously expensive for what I was proposing to do anyway. But this looks like it really would have worked. So then I just went straight out to the Bar Association, and they had a place that was fantastic looking. I could just put a desk in front of it and all that. But the problem was, A, it was expensive. B, the hours involved. I would have to shoot like only 3 hours per day, and during special hours, and you could see there was this noise issue because there's no ceiling here, so that would have been bad, and it just wound up not being a good thing. But I really liked the look. And then I was getting like increasingly desperate, so I started looking for empty real estate. Like, okay, so here's some offices. Maybe I could contact whoever is trying to rent them and see if they'd let me do that. And then I just asked my friends, like, hey guys, what do the places that you work at look like? Is there anything I could do there? And let's see, my friend had a nice place, but it was too fancy looking. And then finally, I just thought of this old place I worked, and it really didn't fit the bill that much. Remember, this is supposed to be a law office. And so I went back and I just looked at all the rooms. There are these big windows here, which I wasn't particularly fond of because I didn't want these big windows coming in and messing with the light. Basically, it's a room, and not only that, but it's a room with not a lot of ceiling height, which is fine. I'm short. And there are these bookcases that were already there. Now, they're pretty obviously crappy IKEA and not looking very lawyerly. But maybe there's something I could do with it. The good thing about this place was they were my friends, and I could get it real cheap with just a donation, basically. So guess which one I wound up which one I chose to go with. I did indeed go with this. All right. So I've got that location. Now I need to turn it into something that actually looks like a law office. So I was going to have to turn that old conference room into something that looked like this. All right, so I've got my location, and it's all up to production design, which is just me and my producer, to get this done. So I go to the prop houses. Now, we call them prop houses even though you still get a lot of furniture and set decoration done there. I knew I wanted stuff like scales of justice because he's a lawyer, and the name badge and maybe a gavel. I wanted a big heavy desk. I wanted some of those law books I saw in the background of everything. Maybe a blotter, one of these fancy banker's lamps. And if you ever get a chance to go to a prop house in New York, or anywhere really, I strongly suggest you go because they are amazing. You walk in and there is just 1,000,001 of everything. If you want medical equipment from the 1940s, they'll have an entire room of it. And you could spend days upon days in there. Everything from the swanky stuff that you'd see like on Mad Men to the cheapest, trashiest crap. So this one, God, I can't remember which prop house this was. There's eclectic props. All of these are now in Queens. And here were some of this. I wanted this nice, heavy-looking kind of desk that you would find in a lawyer's office. Here are those scales of justice that I was looking for. But I wound up getting all of them at a prop house called Aronson. And the funny thing, these law books that I was interested in, yes, you could rent one or two, but really you rented them by the foot. I wanted lots of flags. I wanted law reviews, law manuals. I was looking for plush leather chairs. Those are those named tags, desk flags. I got some lamps. Here are those banker's lamps that I was looking for. So many flags. I mean, literally, you could spend hours upon hours upon hours in these places. I think I got that tree. Here's a nice heavy thing. Now, the big thing is, I was also not a total idiot, and the thing you should make sure you do is always, here, I'll open this up. Yep, these are like the desks I chose, where I got them. Measure them to make sure you can get them through the door. There's nothing so sad as being ready to shoot a film, but it turns out no matter what you do, you can't get a major piece of furniture through the door and you wind up with trouble. Now, I wanted these nice dark mahogany bookcases, but then again, my place already came with bookcases. Granted, they were cheap, cheesy bookcases, but what if I took those cheap, cheesy, Billy IKEA cases and just put contact paper on it? You know, this stuff. And you just buy some of this stuff, and we spent an entire night rolling this stuff out onto a cheap Billy IKEA bookcase. Was it beautiful up close? No, but by the time we were done, it was good enough. Let's see if we have photos here. There we go. And here's what the footage wound up looking like when we were done. So this is that conference room. Is it glorious? Is HBO going to come busting down my door anytime soon? My guess is no. But did I get it super cheap and able to transform this really ugly conference room into something that is a totally passable law office that I could get multiple angles on? Yes, that actually worked. So now imagine this entire process only with lots and lots of money and tons of people. And you can make anything happen.